Okay, and now we uh, go to the keynote. As previously mentioned, we are celebrating the 10th anniversary of this academy. The Mass Teachers Academy is the vision of one person to fulfill the void and necessity created when in 2014, the Texas Board of Education approved the Mexican American Studies course for Texas high schools as an elective after many years of petitioning the state board for such a course. Then came the now what? How do we prepare the teachers to teach Mexican American studies? Early in the planning stages, it was decided that this academy would only be possible with the help of the community. So the plan was and still is that the Mass Teachers Academy operates where it draws from resources within the community. As you will witness this week, the Mass Teachers Academy is a community-powered academy. Dr. Marie Queta Miranda, was the director of the Mexican American Studies program at the University of Texas in San Antonio, where she founded the Mass Teachers Academy in 2015. She received her PhD from the history of the conscious development at the University of California, Santa Cruz. Dr. Miranda, a cultural ethnographer, has published several studies related to contemporary Chicana gang members in California, 60s Chicano youth in the context of a post-war economy, civil rights, Catholicism, and the mod subculture, and conducted interviews about dancing to Tejano Conjunto music with the members of the Polka Dogs, a social club located in Texas. Her publications include the book Homegirls in the Public Sphere. She also has publications, the East Side Review, 40 hits by East Los Angeles' most popular groups, the boys in the band and the girls who were their fans, dancing to Whittier Boulevard. She was the chair of Mujeres Activas en Letras y Cambio Social, MAX. As a member of the ad hoc committee on heteropatriarchal institutional violence for the MOX, she published Remembering Emotion, Bigotes and the Unblocking of Memories in Chicana Latina Studies, the MOX Journal, in the MOX Journal. Dr. Miranda retired as a full professor in 2019. It is my honor to introduce to you the visionary who brought this academy to fruition, Dr. Marie Queta Miranda.
Thank you, Gloria. I want to thank the Colectiva, Gloria and Liliana, for this, for inviting me to participate in this virtual academy. I kind of clumsy with virtual, so if the folks here would be a little patient with me, because I gotta switch from looking at the computer and then looking at my notes. So that's where it's going. I wanted to start with something that, the title's Educating, Motivating, and Coalescing. The film Walkout was a wonderful film in that the directors, the producers were about that the main idea of the film was about organizing, right? It was a how-to guide for youth and students to organize movements in their classrooms, respond to issues of immigration, respond to different issues, and how to organize. And that's what you see throughout the film in Walkout. But the end, right? At the very end, there's these two quotes, right? The fact that students spread all over the country was not just in Los Angeles, certainly in San Antonio, certainly down in South Texas. There was quite a few walkouts by students demanding better education, right? And as a result of the walkout, what these two quotes are is the fact that there was, as a result of their participation and activism, their actual learning, their actual knowledge increasement, there was an increased enrollment at universities. And I think those statistics are really, really fantastic when I think about the walkout. And I think then that education also then underscores what the civil rights movement was about. In every, as we think of every era of the Mexican American civil rights movement, the Chicano civil rights movement, and today's contemporary civil rights movement among Chicanos, Chicanas, Chicanx, the issue of education is always there. It's always there. What can we do? What can we do? So that was an important thing. Also the idea of what the Chicano and again, each of the eras of civil rights is that advocacy and action is the fundamental element of Chicana, Chicano, Chicanx studies. That's also really important during the late 60s. I also showed the slide, this idea of somos más, because it really addresses the idea of coalescing. I use this purposefully, coalescing, a gerund, right? It's an action word. And it's not necessarily a coalition that is an organization, but a coalition of coalescing, mixing and blending. I think that also this action, a kind of thinking of a coalescing as action, is because as teachers, we share knowledge and we're always building, always creating, always putting together. And what we do in our work is, and our endeavors is to promote Chicana, Chicano, Chicanx studies in our schools and in our education. So with that, I want to kind of jump to really 2010 when in Arizona, and Roberto was a very strong, he was a participant and activist around the movement against the banning of ethnic studies in Tucson, Arizona. And just a real brief, a brief of what that was. It was in 1910 that Governor Jan Brewer signed a law banning Tucson Mexican American Studies programs. And what was impossible for us to kind of grasp, but at the same time we did move. The MOS program developed as a result of the 1978 federal court-issued decree to remedy the effects of segregation. The court found that the district had failed to eliminate the vestiges of de jure segregation. And so those vestiges are still with us. I think this is an important one for us to think about, especially in this particular time when there's an attack, not only on the DEI, but also on ethnic studies, certainly in California and certainly in Texas and in other states. There's 24 states that have ethnic studies programs throughout the nation for high schools. So immediately after the court, about 1998, teachers in Tucson, Arizona, then developed the MOS program. And the banning then in Tucson itself, the superintendent of instruction of Arizona, John Huppenthal, then he really accused, and he said we had to enforce, we're going to ban Mexican American studies because that Mexican American studies programs was un-American, it was racist, it promoted the overthrow of government, and it was ineffective. And so one of the funny things is that he goes and he makes this study, the Cambium study, and the Cambium study exactly found the opposite of everything that he said, Brewer said, and so forth. So this was really an important thing. One of the studies that was so important is this idea that students themselves participated more in class, attendance went high, they scored higher in tests. It's because they seen themselves in the text. They seen themselves in the curricula. They seen themselves. They were exploring, especially with Chicano studies, and the foundation is the issue of community, as mentioned by the speakers ahead, right? In the welcome. The idea that once you see yourself, then again, there's an interest. The other thing, the aspect of it was the fact of most of our ethnic studies, certainly Chicano, Chicanx studies, is about local research. What is happening in your community? Look into these areas. What's going on with gentrification? What's going on with this, even a bit of a basketball team? What's going on with that basketball team? What's going on with that football team? All of these questions are local issues, and you get a local perspective. And it really then looks at the world in its diversity, right? The diversity of ideas that gives us new ways to thinking about looking at society, and also then as we're thinking about looking at society, social change. So, nonetheless, in Texas, in San Antonio in particular, Arizona was always on our mind as we were working on various issues around Chicano civil rights, right? Chicana civil rights. As we address any of those issues, Arizona was there, and the fact that it could happen. So, in 2018, 1814, yeah, in 2012, we formed the group Somos Mas in San Antonio. And we proceeded to work with the Tejas Foco, which is basically the regional chapter of the National Association for Chicana and Chicano Studies. We proposed basically then a committee to with the Tejas Foco to work on the Mas High School elective course and so forth. So we began to organize a campaign to get the Texas State Legislature Board of Texas State Board of Education to officially incorporate ethnic studies in generally and Masan specifically into the state curriculum. And that was then continuous mobilizations of students, parents, teachers to the Texas SBOE. We brought also approached the representatives, SBOE representatives, Marisa Perez Diaz, and we also went to various members to support our call for the course. What was important was that Marisa Perez Diaz was instrumental in bringing a meeting together of the district of Region 20 and with Somos Mas members, as well as Emilio Zamora from Austin, who drove down to San Antonio so he could participate. It was an interesting meeting. I thought it was the thing that actually, where the foco, aprendió el foco, right? This is it. We had to do this. We had to train teachers. We had to prepare teachers. We had to know how to do that, and teachers know how to then conduct themselves and work in their communities. So that was where we started. At the Texas, so the questions were, who will teach these courses? Will they be prepared to teach these courses? And how will you prepare them? Right. And so we really wanted to look at the foundations of Chicana, Chicano, Chicanx studies. What is it? Activism, advocacy, mobilizations, learning. Those are the very things that we wanted to make sure that our faculty, our teachers, understood what it was about. So that was there. Somos Mas itself was based on in around 2012 when there was a cancellation of Mas courses and other programs at Our Lady of the Lake in San Antonio, OLLU. Students, alumni, and community organizations were raising criticisms of the cancellation. They were protesting out there, right? So I met with Teresita to find out what was happening because I didn't know what we could do. I wanted to know what the issues were. Was it, simply courses canceled, or was it the whole program? All those kinds of questions that I had. Well, Dr. Teresa Aguilar, she held administrative positions at Our Lady of the Lake, and she was also the director of the Center for Mexican American Studies. What she told me was not once did the president meet with her to discuss maintaining the center or even talk about the cancellation. She was there. Here she is in these administrative offices, never, silence. And so this is what really moved me, is that here we are, we're experts in our field, we're experts in our communities, we're experts on living as Chicana, Chicano, Chicanx people, and no one comes to us for information. That was an incredible feeling. And the feeling of just rejection that was there in her, I knew we had to do something. And so one of the things I said was maybe we could call all the other program directors, or either directors or coordinators. We all had different titles at the colleges in San Antonio. We all had different ones, and to have a meeting. And so what we did was we reached out to Juan Tejeda, who was at the advisor of record at Palo Alto, Corina Asta Gonzalez, who's coordinator at Northwest Vista College, and we also asked then some other folks, right? One of the things we also wanted was some more voices from OLLU. So Sister Maria Carolina Flores, I think, who initiated the MOS program at OLLU, was attending, and Steve Weiss, who was a colleague. I think that he was in the library sciences and archival work and so forth. That was really important to how we think about San Antonio. So we discussed that we had to get together, and as a group who are invested in MOS as faculty and staff, how do we save MOS at OLLU? Well, we did a lot of different things. So I reached out to also the Mexican American Studies Student Organization, MASO, at UTSA, asking them to join the picket lines. And I urged them to make sure they talk to the students who were out there, who were picketing, find out what else students could do to aid their cause, what actions were going to be organized to include them, so that that movement of students would grow, not just to the OLLU campus, but to the campuses, every campus that had a MOS program. So that was another one. And so they were joining them. But then all of the MOS faculty of all of the colleges at San Antonio, Palo Alto, and Northwest Vista, and UTSA, what we did also was we went and talked about the issues that were happening at OLLU. And we informed the students and told them, you've read the news, you've heard of what's going on, again, to raise the issue there, and if to answer any questions that the students had about what they were going to do, or could they help, how to help and support, right? And so then the picket lines, especially with students, began to swell at OLLU. Another event at the time was that Teresita invited Somos Mas faculty to a get together of the OLLU board members and the presidents who would be there. It was a really suave move by Teresita. She went moving around, moving with a couple of us as we moved around the whole group with board members, introducing, these are the directors, these are the coordinators of the MOS program at this college, at this college, at this college. And it was a really suave, it was really smart, because they knew then we were all looking at them. We were all wondering what was going to happen. So that was an important. Another thing about Somos Mas when we first got together is that in that first meeting about supporting OLLU MOS program, was we went around the room and we knew a lot of complaints of what to complain about. What we wanted to do was to talk about the accomplishments, our successes. And this sharing was so important. What we were doing was so important, because at the end, we knew that we had a lot more and we could accomplish more. And so that's when we came together, the sharing of our accomplishments and successes. We began to form an organization called Somos Mas, right? And so this, just a little note on Somos Mas itself. We were tossing around names, all during this, get together. And so I talked about the Maso group at UTSA, that they had these T-shirts with the slogan, Queremos Más, right? And the Mas is in all uppercase letters. And I said, well, maybe that would be what our group could be called. So it was Juan who said, at the end of the meeting, he says, I've been thinking about it. And, we we're the faculty. We're assigned to work for mosques, to build mosques. Somos más, right? It's not queremos, somos, right? And that's how the name came up, right? So that was an important one to do. At every other meeting after that, we just kept inviting more and more people. We had more faculty. They were not necessarily assigned to Mexican American Studies, but they taught our courses. And so we had it from both Northwest Vista College, certainly at UTSA and Palo Alto. And then we began to invite also Cynthia Cortes from St. Philip's College, who had been for quite a few years trying to bring in the ethnic studies program and in particular the MOS program and the African American Studies program. She had been working with the administration, appealing proposals, resolutions, guidelines, and so forth. She had been submitting to really, really hard worker on that. And then we also invited some of our first community, and this is Moni Avila. She was she actually initiated this group called Mas for the Masses. It was a community-based group, and we met with students from, wherever from San Antonio, mostly from the west side of San Antonio, which is a predominant Chicanx community, right? It was there that students came voluntarily on Saturday mornings for cafecitos, and I don't know if the students had cafecito, but breakfast, kind of continental breakfasts. And that was an important one. There was this kind of thing that, again, this is what students wanted to hear. So as a result of our work of thinking about MOS, we decided also that our Somos MOS was not just about university and college MOS programs, but that, again, rethinking what the civil rights movement was. In 1968, there was an a civil rights hearing on Mexican American experience. And one of the things with education was we wanted Mexican American representation, inclusion, right, in all of our courses from pre-K through 12. Right. So it's not just colleges. So that was an important kind of move for us at those first meetings, that we started to think about it, and then began then to work around the state level. Another thing we had all faced together before this. Before this, we were really just on phone contact or maybe emails. And most of the problem was trying to make sure that the University of Texas at San Antonio accepted the transferring of MOS majors from the community colleges. That was a really important struggle. And so, but that was kind of a limited. Every once in a while we do the complaining, but we would also, think about that. So that was mostly our work. But this is the first time through Somos MOS we broadened our work. We moved it. We were going to do something different. So we started sharing a lot of information. So again, at UTSA, we had this really simple, kind of crude flyer that promoted, right, that addressed the questions: what is MOS? What can you do with a MOS degree, right? That's the most important question everybody asks for that college scholar, right? You're going to go to college and invest the money. So we shared it with Somos MOS, and they made it a beautiful flyer, right? Mars was just really crude, and it made it, and it promoted MOS. And we began to pass it out at different things. Certainly one of the things we did was to hit the new student orientations. That was an important one. What is it? And what can you do with a degree? We also then made sure that we talked to the advisors. That was also, we made presentations. And so we shared slides. Certainly, again, we were using slides for presentations to the advisors at UTSA. And, we built up our work. And so that was important. MOS, it's what Somos MOS started to set up tables at community colleges, certainly UTSA. We set them up at Northwest Vista. We set them up at Palo Alto, in particular, those two campuses. And yeah, even at San Antonio. One of the things we did was to set up the MOS tables so that, again, when they had all the universities to keep going to college from the 2-year to the 4-year, that they knew that the MOS courses were available. a lot of times we got questions. Well, I'm not going to UTSA. Do they have it at Austin? Do they have it at, these other universities? And so we said, well, some of them did. And then we told them some of them are under Latina, Latino. We, informed them about that. And so that was important for them to know. What we had also was within Moscow itself at UTSA, students approached their high school teachers and administrators to talk about college and asked if they could present about what college is like, what it meant to be a first generation in their families to attend college, to talk about their experiences of life, of of college life, their experiences. And what came out was also them speaking about how the MOS program, how important it was for them to keep going, to continue, that they had faced a lot of hardship trying to keep up with the college and all of the idea of the studies, the kinds of routines that you have to get into for college life, and the students themselves, right? So, and how important MOS program was for them to finish and to graduate. That was the important one for them. We also went to community meetings, and we went to meetings like the conference held by the Family Public Housing. There's a lot of people coming in there, and we set up our puesto. We had, all kinds of different things there, and people were attracted to our table and came by asking questions. And sometimes they would go, they'd call over their high school student, right? Or one of their kids said, you've got to know about this program. So when you go, right? And it was parents that were actually sometimes hauling the kids over, pay attention to this. So that was an important one. Another event that I really remember was attending IDVA, that's the Intercultural Development and Research Association. Chamberlain at that conference has really struck me. One is the amount of parent involvement, the fact that they were directing the discussions, that they were participating in the different groups that were set up. It was really important because also probably more than any other community event that we tabled was the fact that most of the parents supported and understood that there were MOS programs. They had this idea that there were MOS programs and that they were available and that their students should take it, their children should take it. It was an amazing group for me to sit in on and to table. And they understood the need for MOS courses and the fact of getting even further degree programs on that. Promotion for MOS were also was about making sure we had contingents. There's the annual MLK March and the Cesar Chavez marches in San Antonio. And we organized contingents of Somos MOS to participate. And we were there practically, at every one that, when I was there. I think they continued. We had a Somos MOS contingent, except COVID changed everything. But we made sure that those, and they were filled with faculty, and they were filled with students, and again, community participants. At the end of this, I could see that Somos MOS, we were emboldened, right? That's the word I want to say. We understood what our unity meant. We felt supported by this group. We felt like we could come to the table and bring. We were prepared for meetings. We were prepared. We shared constantly. We talked about problems, how to resolve them, ways to resolve them. So one of the there were a lot of things that happened. One of the things is that we had an increase in enrollment in our MOS courses. And again, we have also then the State Board of Education passing the ethnic studies program. So that also was an important one, increasing. There was discussion about it. It was part of the public discourse. It was in the public square that we were doing this, right? So we had a lot of victories at that particular moment because of this larger movement, and then our Somos MOS as well working together. We had increased enrollments. I think one of the things that I always smile at, I think it was we had the director of the MOS at Northwest Vista finally got a course release. She was doing all of the MOS director work with no course release, and she finally got it. It was like, These were small victories, but they were so important for us to keep promoting, keep dialoguing, keep that motion going. Um, so that was an important one. The other thing is that the San Antonio Community College Board of Trustees finally approved a committee to write up the needs for developing and growing Mexican American studies on all 5 campuses. That was an important one because it was guidelines to what was needed. It was not just guidelines, this is how you do it. It was what's needed. Well, we need a MAS program, an African American Studies program at St. Philip's, right? This is the need. We need to have coordinators, right? That extra time, either, find out ways to do it. We went through all of the campuses and did a needs assessment. That's basically what we were doing. And we brought it together. The committee was made up of some of the members of Somos Mas, but representatives from all of the 5 campuses. And that was an important issue. And we had a beautiful report that I think we have to turn back to at some point to look at. So that was there. So one of the other things that we did was the outreach, certainly working with the Mexican American Legislative Caucus, and certainly working with MALDEF and working with other organizations. Names that we just keep going and going. There's a lot of folks that we did outreach to. But one of the things that we did was Juan Tejeda, Liliana Saldana, and myself, along with Professor Emilio Zamora from Austin, UT Austin, we attended the annual conference of the Mexican American School Board Members Association, MASBA. We had a panel, we presented the need for MAS in our schools. And as a result of that, there was a movement to forward a resolution to all of the MASBA membership to support the initiative for ethnic studies MAS in our schools. That was important. So working with Marisa, we went to the Region 20 meeting. And again, who will teach? Will they be ready? Will they be prepared? Was the important question. So immediately I went to Belinda Flores, who was the department chair of the Bicultural and Bilingual Studies department at UTSA. And this is where our MAS program was established, right? A solid program with credits and so forth was established within BBL. And we discussed what could be done to answer that question. It just hit me like a bolt when she asked, when the principal at Sam Houston High School asked that question. I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. So we could answer those questions. We need the need for teachers that are trained in the field of Chicana studies. We discussed teaching degree programs. We discussed certificate program. This is Belinda. And I discussed these summer institutes, right, as well as continuous teacher training workshops. How do those operate? How do we establish them? How do we work for them? It was a lot to think about and a lot to do. So we went out. So did kind of small things. And this is this idea that I'm trying to think about myself on this issue of coalescing, right? I reached out to faculty in the College of Education and I asked, do you have email addresses, your contacts who are superintendents, who are principals, who are teachers in schools? Could you share your list with me, right? So that was important. We had the right of principals, teachers, right? And some faculty listened, and they asked questions. Well, what is this? What's this academy about? And so forth. And I answered. And some weren't ready to help out. But others were. And they handed me their list. And one of the things I did continually was as I used their list, I usually, when a teacher from their contact list showed up to the academy, I sent a letter to the UTSA faculty and said, thank you so much for making this connection for us, right? And I'd also send them a kind of an annual report, a summary report of what the academy was like. So again, it was this constant contact, the sharing of information, appreciation, these kinds of things that were going on at all the times, right? I want to talk, there was a bit of a problem in the first couple of years of the academy and first 2 or 3 years maybe. And since I didn't come out of a teacher education program, I only had my teaching experience at a university as a model. So there was some real kind of dryness to the academy, right? Really, really dry. And nonetheless, in the first year, especially, right, teachers were excited. They were getting the content and context of studies. So the first couple of years, I really have to say this is that again, I'm really college kind of thing. You know, this is how you do it. That was the way I was trained. This is the way I did it. Right. We had the master for Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. And the teachers did it. Elizabeth Rivas, who was one of the founders of our Master Academy, was there from the beginning with me. As soon as I said the word academy, in fact, she gave me the word academy. I talked about a summer institute. She gave me the word academy. She said, she was there. She was there. And she said, teachers don't go all the way from 8:30 to 4 to these kinds of things. I said, okay, but I had no other idea of how to operate it. How do you teach it in like a weekend? I didn't understand those kinds of things. The other thing was that when I spoke with faculty about the academy, was making sure that we had the continuing professional education credits were available to the teachers. And so that we did. And the dean at that time worked with us. And certainly then Belinda, also the chair of the BBL, was there with us to working for those things and making sure that the teachers had that. So that was the other thing. The other thing that Elizabeth raised from is that when you have these academies, the teachers take things with them, right? They have to have, they can take with them to the classroom. My brain went, notebook, a binder, what's in it, right? And so that was an important. I know, like a syllabus, I can get a syllabus. I can, books, sure, a book list. I could do that, right? Thinking about it. But one of the things that she did, it was like a lot of work for her, and I just really appreciated it. I used a book. It was David Montejano's Anglos and Mexicans in the Making of Texas. And what she did was, she went through the entire book and my lectures and went through the text, right, to the text, and she just went through the text all through it, so that way you could see which areas were meeting which parts of the knowledge skills that are required. It was incredible work for her, and dedication. And I think those first couple of years were what's important, right? Was that the hours that the teachers came in, the hours that the volunteers did, right? The kind of work that they did was about volunteerism because of a commitment to reaching our Chicanic students. How do we reach them? How do we guarantee their success? It was a really important thing for us to look about. So that was an important part of it. And again, a lot of students came in, a lot of the MASA students in particular, or students that were in our classes that weren't necessarily MAS majors or necessarily a part of MASA, came in volunteering in all kinds of ways, bringing food to the academy, making sure that there was, just helping with the numerous, the details of organizing things. So this idea of volunteerism, we have masters and doctoral students and undergraduates offering. They were like Elizabeth Rivas, Dr. Elizabeth Rivas, Dr. Gloria Gonzalez, Yasmina Colina, and then there's the undergrads, Eddie, Rufino, Yasmin, Joanna, and so many more that just volunteered and just did incredible work for all of us. Also to the teachers, that's an amount of volunteerism as well, right? They attended without financial assistance, a lot of them, right? The schools, right? They have no financial assistance from their schools, right? Maybe sometimes they got lunch money, sometimes they got travel money, or something only covering registration. It was really, right? They were there. This is what they wanted. They wanted it, right? The spirit of volunteerism, I think, is about that commitment to bringing the history and culture to students, and through them to the community, to the wider community as well. So I think teachers have that idea of community and campus much stronger than you see certainly in universities and colleges, right? You teachers have that as kind of fundamental about issues of education and how that goes. So it was there. So I wanted to talk a little bit about teaching as a Moss program director. As a professor at Moss at UTSA and the director, I found that much of my time was teaching and educating colleagues, faculty, and administrators about the importance of Moss, about the Mexican American experience in Texas in particular. That was constantly what I had to do, was doing that. I made sure that. Sometimes it was a small reminder that San Antonio was a majority minority population in San Antonio. Which is
Dr. Dr.
no. Time's up.
No, you have 10 more minutes.
Oh, okay.
10-minute mark, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
It was that. Sometimes I'd see administrators themselves overwhelmed, right? They themselves were overwhelmed with so much work that they had to do, right? Paperwork and stuff like that. So I'd have to find myself reminding them about the spirit of education, right? The mission and meaning, preparing citizens for ethical participation in society, you know, inspiring. That's what I found myself doing. So the coalescing and mingling are part of what we're doing. I think at this time, when we think about right, Trump, campaign, his promise to eliminate the Department of Education, right? These are all things we have to do. And we have to do greater further outreach. And certainly one of the things that came up is the fact that a lot of the community funds for after school programs and so forth and school funds are going to be in the summer programs as well, are going to be ended. In fact, they're blocked right now. And broader approaches, thinking about the YWCA, who has a very strong statement on eliminating racism and empowering women and promoting peace and justice. I'm thinking about the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. So there are people that are being affected by these first blows by Trump. Coalescing, I think also parents. Somos votantes. This is an incredible one. Certainly, as we think about it, the attack on ethnic studies in our schools, the attack of ethnic in particular in our schools, is coming from parent involvement. Right? The attack on it. Some of them, a few of them are reading things and they're saying, "Oh, this is horrible. This is un-American," like that. And so we have to mobilize. You have to work with our parents. I don't say mobilize. We got to work with our parents much more. This is and really emphasize the idea of student success that's there. So what did I dream? This is what I want to think about, right? At that time, you asked me that. I was thinking of, again, the Academy for Teacher Excellence. Again, Dr. Belinda Flores was the founder, and Lorena Iglesias, the director. They had a website, and there was all kinds of stuff on it like that. But there was this one column titled Communities of Practice. I said, what the heck is that? I'm not a teacher, so I didn't know a lot of these kinds of terms in the educational field, right? The teachers forum, right, for discussing how courses were successful, how they successfully did things. I also noticed times there was, issues where they raised, this is what's happening at my school. And then again, sharing information, right? How to work with administrators, how to work with fellow colleagues. These kinds of things were happening in this communities of practice column there. And I thought we need to be able to help teachers for the MOS programs, how to help them to advocate for their courses, to the principals, the Board of Education, to supervisors, and to community. And that, again, when we think about the term communities of practice, it's to take up advocacy. That is what it's about, an action to support. That was the part I dreamt about. And there's beginnings. Thank you so much to Liliana, Gloria, and all of you for that. We also have to think about a lot of other things for that. So again, one of the things I always thought about was parent community, teacher parent meetings, an increase in teacher parent meetings, class, where we have like a parents' night in mosque, thinking of those. And again, many of you are beginning those kinds of efforts to do this. And so there's a need for that. So I want to finish with this idea, and I think this is the last slide. This has come from Liliana Saldana's work on the struggle for Mexican American studies in Texas. She says that while the schools are offered, there's still issues that we have to go for. And certainly what is important is the fact that this is I'm reminded that we must continue to fight against these reprehensible policies, but most importantly, we must continue to build new solidarities within and across our communities of practice, create new spaces that will nurture our community struggles for humanization and epistemic justice. It's a strong statement about today, and I think certainly as I reviewed your program and just was amazed at the beauty of the program itself, the ideas that are there, and I guess, to carry those last words from Miranda with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miranda, for that amazing keynote and giving us so much background, the history of how we got to this, and the struggle that you and the other predecessors, partook for us to be here. Okay, thank you. I have a couple of comments. Let me see what I've got. Questions. Leslie Rivera. Do university college teacher prep programs for history secondary ed teachers have an ethnic studies component to the requirements, or do they just bundle it under culturally relevant curriculum training? If not, have some if are those some of the roadblocks? Are those some of the roadblocks?
Yeah, yes, definitely roadblocks. Definitely roadblocks. We've approached, when I was a program director, both myself and Dr. Belinda Flores, approached the history department to look at the social studies requirements. They had world history, they had US history, and so forth. That was going on. They had all this list, and we asked them about an ethnic studies component to it. And certainly I could see again, there's one of those things where you see the chair of the department's face go down, right? It was a difficult, how do you bring it in? How do you do that? So many of the universities do not have that component. In many ways, when you think about it, like at UTSA, what we had was the Mexican American Studies students, majors who majored in Mexican American Studies, were also taking the history component. So they were learning world history and so forth, all these different categories. So and so then the students themselves then would double major, right? They would bring their MAS courses, they would take all the MAS course requirements as well as the requirements in the history department. So yeah, there's the stumbling blocks of administrative and the kind of implementations that it's difficult to change implementations. You have to go through all these different boards and so forth, these different administrative procedures. But yeah, that has to be much more, is still a need for us to address. Yeah, I knocked that off my talk. Saving time, yeah, definitely need that, and a way for us to have that in the universities.
Yeah, and I believe Dr. Saldana has taken up that and been working right with the teacher prep program. Dr. Saldana, you want to comment?
Yes, yes. So I know that we had proposed a certificate in mass, and there were a lot of changes in the certification process. So it made it really hard for students to earn their degree in education along with, their social studies certification. And then on top of that, get, this 12 or 9 credit hour certificate in mass. So what we did was we reorganized a strategy to create a pathway where students could earn a degree in either Mexican American Studies or African American Studies, which are the two undergraduate programs we offer at UTSA, while simultaneously earning their teacher certification, their social studies certification. So this is hopefully, I'm lighting a velita, right? Will be the first ethnic studies teacher pathway in Texas. So this is all a part of that, advocacy work and the coalescing that you were talking about, Dr. Miranda. Like the work continues. We're still trying to build that infrastructure within our institutions of higher education. We're still meeting at Somos Más. We still have the Nax Texas Foco K through 12, and we're still, continuing the legacy and the amazing legacy that you've left for the community.
Then we have another comment. Looking forward, how can we deal with districts and or district social studies coordinators who are not knowledgeable about ethnic studies or principals, who just volunteer random teachers not properly trained in ethnic studies or MAS, that they are teaching MAS? So they, randomly pick someone.
Yeah, again, that's calling on folks, right? If you're part of I didn't mention that was also something that to just put out. There's the Social Studies Association. We actually went to a conference there. We set up tables and had presentations there in Texas. So I'm forgetting the full title. If you know some of the social studies folks in that particular association, to help you out, to write a letter about the need for content, right? Those kinds of things. And so you're not there battling by yourself. Then you have these kind of, organizations that have been in these fields of social studies for quite a while. I forgot the name of it. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to do a find real quick here. But finding that social studies association and having them talk about the thing of prepared teachers. So yeah, don't think of it as your own. Thinking about, again, where you do have the school districts that do have strong social studies directors and so forth. Certainly I think about, there's so many more schools now, right, that we can call on. Again, those directors that know the field of Chicano studies, some of them who have also participated or sent their teachers to the academy, calling on them, again, to help you raise the issues, right? To talk about it. So yeah, again, it's that coalescing that's really significant to your efforts. So again, this is this idea of coalescing and working together.
Okay, Dr. Valenzuela.
Buenos días, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? It's so great to see you, Dr. Miranda. Thank you for that wonderful, wonderful presentation. It just reminds me the importance of microhistories regarding Mexican American studies and how the San Antonio experience was, similar but also different from the Austin experience as it would be in other places. And so, but it all connects, of course, to this larger vision that we have, which is really awesome for inclusion, right? And so what I just wanted to just begin seeding was the idea that we need to act and be intentional with respect to the Texas State Legislature, including, you mentioned the Mexican American Legislative Caucus, that doesn't go away, right? That continues. And also, of course, the State Board of Education that still needs to align Native American studies and Asian American studies, right? And how we're all together. But we do have a champion in the Texas State Legislature, Representative Cristina Morales, who's filed now for 3 times, even in the midst of all this anti-CRT, anti-DEI legislation, has filed an ethnic studies bill that would create a pathway to a high school diploma upon the taking of ethnic studies courses. And of course, the definition aligns to what the State Board of Education has. So Uh, we're right now in a very precarious situation because of the politics, and how, they could eliminate us. Um, I mean, just officially and legally, including at the college level, particularly now with Senate Bill 37, Senate Bill 12, these bills that are, I think, the first steps to engineer this. I mean, we have to get out the vote, right? And make sure that we get these people out of power. I think there's good possibilities here. San Antonio is leading the way. Gina Ortiz, man, that's pretty awesome. I feel that the momentum, it's so ironic, but when we had that fight in Arizona, we knew from the very beginning it was coming to Texas, right? It was before Trump, right? It was before, but it was Trumpism. It was that mentality, right? That got Trump into power. So no, felicidades. I'm just so happy to hear of all of your work, and I love this concept of coalescing, because it's that slow and patient, right? Even as we feel this urgency, but it's the slow and patient work that involves community, and it's meeting after meeting after meeting, right? To build an agenda. And no, felicidades to everybody, all of y'all, Liliana and Gloria, Cristina, everybody, and the team for bringing all of this to light. But we do have champions, but they need to know about this. I wish they were here, to experience what I'm feeling right now, just this real pride. Yeah. Thank you. Gracias. Es todo. Sí, gracias.
Yes, thank you. Anyone have a question? You can raise your hand or a comment if you don't want to put it in the chat.
Let me just go in right here, Gloria.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the Texas Social Studies program. That's the one. The Texas Council for Social Studies. That's what it is. Like that. Yeah, their title. Yeah, we did several times. We did one the presentation and set up a table, and then this another year we did, and we got support from BBL that gave us the money to set up the table, because you have to pay money for that. So that was really important again, because then we also then were able to talk to some of the leadership of the council. That was an important one, and not like a formal meeting. Again, it was kind of informal, and trying to again inform them about the ethnic studies program and its significance. We really didn't have to do a lot of convincing, but what can we do is always the question, the last question. Okay, what can we do?
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Comments, questions?
There's a question from Luis in the chat.
Okay. Luis, let me see. Okay, I have to go down. Luis, how has the pace of activism changed in the passing years when it comes to protest at public schools? Recently, here in San Antonio, we have seen walkouts these past years. I wanted to know some thoughts.
On the national scene, we're seeing a lot. It just so happens I was in Los Angeles in the winter this year, and I was not participating because I was more watching. I had to do some other things that I was there for. Was that there was a march around immigration. That was a really important one on, and then there was another one on Sunday. And then, interestingly, there was a Monday demonstration, and it was from high school students and students, predominantly high school students. And where I was staying with my sister, right? All of a sudden, one of the high schools came out, and they started marching toward downtown Los Angeles. And we were in the middle of that route there at that time as my sister. And to see all of these high school students, and they really were really wonderful. They stayed on the sidewalk, even though they could have taken over the street. There were so many students on that walkout around immigration. And it was the early January one that I remember in particular. And that was the high school students. And, I talked to like some of the residents, community people, and they were looking and they were all concerned about the ones on the previous demonstrations like that. And they were worried for they were, worried about what was going to go on downtown LA. As, people who lived right there by the downtown area. But the other thing, when the students came out, I heard the voices of these residents, like the community members, neighbors, change their tone. They were so proud that these students were out there. They said, "Gives me hope." It was a whole different kind of tone that they had. And I can't say that this is happening all over the country, but just seeing that kind of response was just incredible to me. I think there is a growth. I think certainly when we think about the kinds of demonstrations by, around issues of immigration, the deportations and so forth, like the increase of the oppression, I think is really a part of this increase, this reprehensible actions that are happening with ICE and, working with, mobilizing army, military, and mobilizing all of these things. It just, that people are there and are willing to take up and keep marching, keep on raising these issues. And I think there will be walkouts again. How do we do that? How do we do it so that we save? Make sure that the students are safe. Make sure that they're not, how to teaching them right those kind of things right of peaceful resistance, right? Is how not to react to agitators that are there to provoke you into violence or to provoke you into some kind of reaction. How to respond. Don't say anything. Don't give any information when police stop you. All those kinds of students, the rights that you have. All of these things have to be mobilized. Also, I'm not saying Moss has to do it. All of it. That's what I mean. All of it, right? But I am saying, that we have to be really aware of that. I mean, I was in one organization, a Chicana organization, where during the immigration, they were asking the students not to protest. And I was like looking at the residents and said, what? These students have a right to protest. Are you kidding? So, it was going to pass because everybody was tired. It was the last day. I just raised my hand and said, I want to have a discussion on this resolution that was urging students not to participate. I think we have to, when we talk to students, knowing their rights, how to know what this kind of passive resistance is about, how peaceful resistance is, so forth. You got to, knowing the rights and go for how to, make sure that you're taking care of yourself, your well-being. Anger is a destroyer. Anger is a destroyer for us. It burns us up. And how to get these students right to move that to really the positive, these kinds of things in order to respond to where we are today. So I think, there will be an increase, but I'm thinking about as teachers, not just Moss, but all of us as teachers, helping our students to be ready for these kinds of activities. I mean, there's always these provocations by agent provocateurs that want to come and upset these kinds of things. Police themselves that are some of them get hot-headed, that will go after. Again, what do you do in these particular situations? So this is why I mentioned the Boys Club and the Girl Scouts earlier, because I think these are centers that can help us. They can do the work for us. They cannot do the work. They can help us. They can teach the students about these kinds of things. These organizations, have histories of, from a liberal position to understanding the issues of empowerment, taking on issues of social justice in many ways, these two organizations in particular. So approaching these community centers of where we can, they can help us out with all this, and our students are active in these kinds of demonstrations and walkouts. Good question.
that you addressed that activism, the protesting. Dr. Miranda's activism goes way back, and it's documented in the book, Chicana Power. It has a picture of her in her college, uh, in her college protesting. Is it Miley Blackwell? Maylee Blackwell. Her book features a picture of Dr. Miranda in her uh, college days, uh, setting up, organizing a protest or something. So, yes, very much so. So, we're getting advice from someone who knows. And then Anita said, our jóvenes are angry and frustrated. Her daughter was the one that organized one of the protests here in San Antonio. And of course, she's also noting that they will be uh, turning 18 soon. So we also have to encourage them to become active, politically active, as in registering to vote and making their voice heard, because that's a lot of power too. Okay, any other comments? Let me see. Okay, Chicana Power, yes. Okay, thank you, Dr. Miranda. We appreciate this. This is inspirational, very inspirational. And we know that we keep your legacy going in this Mas Academy.
Way beyond. Wow. Yeah, the program just wowed me. I had to share it with my family. I had to share with some friends about this. It was such a wonderful program to think about what you were doing. And again, this issue of, I said, I had, when I started, it was very dry. Having, the chef coming in to talk about food, to having all these different, Angela, thank you, Angela, Valenzuela. We knew each other from graduate school. I was an older returning student. But yeah, working with Angela around youth and youth issues as well. We talked a lot about that as we were going for our doctorate. So yeah, thank you. This program, your program is just way, way, way beyond what we did in the beginning, but it's also part of the vision, right? It's all the things that you're doing. Thank you so much.
And we thank you for your mentorship. You were a mentor to many of us on this in this colectiva. You served as a mentor for a lot of us, and we thank you for that, for showing us the way. Thank you, Dr. Miranda. Okay, and now, yes, thank you. Now we go to a short break, I believe, right?